Hello, welcome and welcome back. Hold on. Crap. I already screwed up the stream. No, you can hear me, but you can't see me. Crap. No! Screwed up the stream. Sorry. Alright, hold on. For everyone watching right now, the camera is booting back up. Yeah, I'm using the GoPro to stream. I like the GoPro. It's quite nice, and I do action stuff with it too sometimes. But right now, I just got to make sure it comes back on. Wait, what? Is my GoPro dead? I hope it's not. Yeah, there it is. All right. Hey, welcome and welcome back to today's stream. What we are doing today is we're talking about nutrition and sleep, and I'm making leftover udon noodles. Well, actually, the udon noodles are fresh. It's just the leftover rotisserie chicken that I'm using because I hate white meat. White meat sucks. It's just not good. So I'm going to put it into something else, make sure that it tastes good, all that kind of stuff, and that's what we're going to do. But we are talking about nutrition and sleep today, specifically how you can change up some of your nutrition practices to have better sleep and know when your sleep disturbances are actually nutrition related, because I get this a lot. First and foremost, let's understand that everyone has different perceptions of what good sleep are, and the concept of good sleep is relative to your age. So, for example, right now, my friend, who is a brand new father of his second child, shout outs Willie, he will likely answer that good sleep for him is probably a solid 4 hours straight because of his newborn and his other kid. But for me, who's a degenerate guy just living alone, my sleep needs to be 7 hours continuously good and deep sleep in order for it to be good. One of the biggest challenges I think a lot of people have, especially when I'm doing assessments for nutrition, is I ask them a lot of intimate details about their sleep, like how well they fall asleep, if they stay asleep, if they wake up in the middle of the night to pee, if they wake up hungry, if they wake up feeling refreshed. Now, the reason why is because these are all indicative of different kind of things that when we tease out stress components in the lifestyle and all that kind of stuff, we get to more of an understanding of, oh, this is nutrition related, and this is what a lot of people actually struggle with when they go to sleep clinics, they see sleep doctors and all that kind of stuff, and they're like, there's nothing wrong with you, and they're just frustrated because we're like, well, I should be able to sleep better, and they can't. When all those answers are not good, then we have to start to take a look at your nutrition, and specifically your protein intake. I've talked about protein intake quite a bit on this channel. I will continue to always talk about protein intake because I don't think people really truly understand how important protein actually is in your nutrition, especially for athletes, because one of the biggest things about sleep is that when we talk about recovery from workouts, recovery from everything, sleep is the number one thing, but I don't think athletes get enough of it. This is a really, really big challenge because a lot of my athletes are young children around anywhere from the age of 8 to 16. That's when I usually see a lot of athletes, because of course their nutrition habits are being formulated during those developmental years, and nutrition is quite difficult for a lot of those people because of course there's a lot of insecurity around what to best feed kids for their nutrition, for their sport to grow properly, whether or not they're feeding the right things and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of insecurity about this. So let's talk about some nutrition to get you to sleep better. And the reason why is because if you don't sleep well, it kind of changes your hormonal sensitivities, right? It changes your hormonal shifts in the day and all that kind of stuff, and that's really not what we want to do. So for example, let's say this. I have not been sleeping too well lately. There's a bunch of different reasons why. My nutrition is probably one of them, to be perfectly honest. I mean, big surprise here, dietitian doesn't eat perfectly. I'm human just like everyone else, right? There are days where I will eat very, very well, days that I don't eat very, very well. It's just how it goes. But I have dedicated this week to getting back on track, to sleeping a little bit better. And the reason that I haven't been sleeping too well is for the reason of last week's stream when I was talking about nutrition for gamers and video games and all that kind of stuff. It's because the Destiny 2 raid situation was, well, for me, it was scuffed right from the beginning. We had a guy on our fire team of 6. 1 hour before we were supposed to start raiding, he dropped out and he was like, hey, sorry to do this, which sucks. You know, it always sucks. Real life happens, and that's understandable. But, you know, could have been better communicated, because he also was like, hey, in the message where he had to drop out of the race, he was like, I only had an hour to play this week, so I wouldn't have had a character up to level anyways if I was able to. And I was like, dude, you need to communicate these things. And then there was another person, so we finally got a 6th fire team member in the raid. But then one of the team members who try to be cute and whatever, he was like, I gotta do this now, let's go on a break, we'll return at 6:30. He comes back at 7:30, despite the fact that 5 of us are waiting around. And then after an hour play of that, after he logged on at 7:30, after an hour, he was like, alright, gotta cook dinner for my, whatever, and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, dude, how inconsiderate are you being right now? Like, we all put time aside for this, we all communicated properly and all that kind of stuff. We all made a commitment to each other, and you failed the fire team. So the first raid, the last raid experience for Destiny 2 was scuffed from the start. That's fine. It is what it is. I'm not mad about it. It's just disappointed, which is like mom or dad version for mad. It is what it is. But yeah, it's a difficult raid. It was a fun raid. A lot going on, a lot of communications, a lot of that kind of stuff. Congratulations to those who won. Very, very happy to hear that the team that won was like this largely unknown team Parabellum of Clan Parabellum. So congrats to them. Huge, huge, huge stuff. It was a good raid race. But either way, that raid race got me dysregulated the entire weekend, right? It set off my ADHD. Made it so I was over-consuming caffeine to stay awake. It was making it so that I was just dysregulated during the day. I wasn't functioning properly and all that kind of stuff. So this week, my goal is to get back on a proper sleep schedule. And the way I do that is we have to start taking a look at your physical activity, your nutrition, all that kind of stuff. Because if your body's dysregulated and not sleeping well, this is getting to my point, there's a hormonal shift that happens in the body. The body has a couple of different hormones that it uses for a couple of different things. Cortisol is the main hormone right now that I'm talking about, and when your body is high in cortisol, especially in the morning, what ends up happening is it starts messing around with your leptin and ghrelin. Now, there's a ton of research studies that actually look at the role of leptin and ghrelin in the body and all that kind of stuff, and obesity and weight gain and all that. But what they found in general was that people that don't sleep well consistently and are on night shifts and stuff like that, which I will have a stream about, like nutrition for night shifts and shift work and all that kind of stuff sometime in the future. But people that don't sleep well, on average, consume 500 to 800 calories per day compared to those that sleep well. Now, there's a ton of different reasons for this, and let's talk about the hormones. Cortisol is a stress hormone. Cortisol gets released a lot when you have a high level of stress. Now, what cortisol does around the body is it tears apart lean muscle mass, and it puts your body in a hormonal shift ready to gain weight, right? Because that's how your body responds to any kind of stressors. Poor sleep being one of those stressors. So one thing that we have to recognize is that when you don't sleep well, your body's cortisol levels are higher. And what does the cortisol level do during the day? Well, it suppresses your leptin response and it increases your ghrelin response. Leptin is a hormone that helps control feelings of fullness in your body. And ghrelin is a hormone that helps control the feelings of hunger in the body. So if your cortisol levels are too high, what happens is your body suppresses leptin sensitivity and increases ghrelin sensitivity much more frequently throughout the entire day until it can properly rest and reduce those stress markers down, right? So what that basically means is if your leptin hormone is suppressed in terms of its activity and sensitivity, then what that means is you're more likely to eat more at meals because you're less likely to feel full faster and you're likely to eat faster. When leptin is decreased. Ghrelin sensitivity is important because ghrelin is the hunger hormone. It's the hormone that gets released at higher concentrations to stimulate your appetite, allow you to eat, and all that kind of stuff. So what ends up happening is when your cortisol levels are really, really high from stressful events like poor sleep, what happens is your body will not be will have the ghrelin sensitivity much higher, meaning that you're going to eat much more frequently, and there's multiple reasons for this, right? Because when your body is stressed, its stress response typically is to, like I said a little while ago, to tear apart lean muscle mass and to increase fat mass in your body, right? That's about how the body's working to deal with stress, because muscle mass energetically or metabolically requires much more maintenance calories than fat mass does. Fat mass virtually doesn't force the body to increase its metabolism, but muscle mass does, because when muscle is active, it burns calories, and therefore the body's like, hey, you don't have calories to burn if you're this stressed out. So it makes that executive function, makes it so that you're more likely to feel hungry throughout the day, more likely to engage in snacking behaviors, and less likely to feel full with your normal portion sizes. Those are when you normally would go back for seconds and all that kind of stuff. So it's very, very important to know what impact poor sleep actually has on the body and how it will actively suppress your ability to feel full. So that comes down to different strategies on how we address it nutritionally. First, we have to talk about meal timing. This should be no surprise to everyone, but breakfast within an hour or two of waking up, and meals and snacks separated by 3 to 4 hours. Focus more on proteins and fats, believe it or not. Now, the reason why is because we know the body is more likely to feel hungry, and less likely to feel full, then we have to really understand the breakdown of macronutrients and the impacts of those macronutrients on satiety. The macronutrients and fiber that I'm going to talk about right now are broken down in feelings of satiety, so feelings of fullness, by short-term and long-term mechanisms. Short-term mechanisms are measured about 1 to 2 hours after a meal. Long-term mechanisms are measured at 3 to 4 hours after a meal. So what generally ends up happening is we have to look at, from the time perspective, we now have to look at the macronutrients, which are protein, carbs, fat, and vegetables or fiber. Protein is king of short and long-term satiety. It's really good at keeping you feel full, both short-term and long-term. That's why when people have higher protein meals, they typically feel full for a longer period of time. There's no complaints or anything like that. That's important. Carbohydrates, however, have a short-term duration on the impact of fullness on both short-term and long-term. Carbs don't actually make us feel full. This is why we can eat a large volume and still keep going, is because carbs, generally speaking, don't activate the same mechanisms for fullness that protein does. So this is important for another reason too. We'll come back to carbs and the impact on sleep later on. But more importantly, we have got to get to fat right now. So fat is not so great short-term for satiety, but it's really good for long-term satiety. So you can see why when you're not sleeping well, telling people to focus more on proteins and fats throughout their entire day after meals is advice to help kind of counteract what we know the hormonal shift is going to be, which is you're more likely to feel hungry, less likely to feel full. Once we start changing the types of foods that people are eating at those meals in response to that, the poor sleep or appetite increase or anything like that, we start to see better control of what they're able to do throughout the entire day. Because of course, carb, which is what your body craves and wants and desires, isn't going to be the thing that your body's going to stop craving or wanting unless it's got that kind of nutritional intake that forces the body to feel full at meals and after meals and all that kind of stuff. So focus more on proteins and fats throughout the entire day if you are not sleeping very, very well. Now, when we get to fiber is both from fruits and vegetables and all that kind of stuff, is both moderate short-term, moderate long-term. So when we break down this whole matrix, and I'm going to have to do a long-term video, scripted one about this soon, with visuals and all that kind of stuff. But today I'm just for lack of a better term, I'm BSing. No, I'm joking. I'm not BSing. That's Ben sitting, for those of you that are new here. I am just talking about nutrition and hoping someone chimes in the chat, says hello, or asks a question about nutrition and all that kind of stuff, specifically pertaining to sleep. So it starts with your meal timings and your macronutrient distribution. So if you've slept poorly, automatically that day, you need to think, okay, I need to focus a little bit more on my protein and my fat intake throughout the entire day, because it's going to counteract my body's inclination, its hormonal inclination to want to eat more at meals. And the reason why we want to keep you a little bit extra full is to keep you in control, right? We want to keep you the person in control of the decisions you're making, as opposed to allowing the hormones to make the decisions for you. What I mean by that is when people allow the hormones to make decisions for them, like my hormones were over the last few days because I was so dysregulated from video gaming and all that kind of stuff, then you get hunger cravings and snacking behaviors where you normally wouldn't get them. A very common complaint I hear a lot of people talking about in nutrition is whether or not they can control themselves for snacking behaviors in the evening. Now, I'm gonna have to talk about this at some point in the future, where snacking, uncontrolled snacking, is a result of multiple things: physiology and psychology. Now, I'm not going to get into the psychology right now. I will at a future stream, but physiologically, those nighttime snacking behaviors are there to help your body keeping doing what it's doing, which is staying awake at that point in time. Because if you don't eat enough dietary protein throughout the day, your body kicks in starvation mode and increases your appetite, specifically for carbs, later on at night. Now, why is it carbs? The body can only crave carbohydrates. It cannot crave anything else. If it's craving anything else, like if you say to me, I'm craving a steak, I'm craving this, those are learned psychological reactions. That's not a physiological thing. Physiologically, your body can only crave carbohydrate. And this dates back to when the human body storage, essentially, for humans wasn't that great. You couldn't store proteins without them going bad unless you had refrigeration and all that kind of stuff, or if it was smoked or preserved in that kind of manner, right? That was way back in the day. So our bodies have evolved to be able to be like, okay, don't crave protein, don't crave fats, crave carbs, because carbs usually are more immediately accessible when it comes down to farming practices, when it comes down to fruits and just food in general. You're most likely going to be able to find carb a lot faster than you can find protein. And if you're finding protein, it's typically an energy consuming process. So the body, for the most part, only craves carbohydrates. So in the event that you're finding yourself uncontrollably snacking at nighttime, that could be a physiological response to not eating enough during the day, not eating your dietary protein targets throughout the day, and your body's kicking into starvation overdrive. Now, for me, Friday was the first raid day. So Friday, I didn't sleep well. Saturday was the second raid day, didn't sleep well there either. And then Sunday, my ego kicked in and was like, all right, let's now that contest mode modifiers are off, let's go play without those restrictions, without those kind of things, and ended up staying really late, because that fourth encounter is a doozy. That one really was hard, and I couldn't understand. Still don't, by the way, that fourth encounter Verity in the Salvation's Edge raid. I still don't understand it. But I'll get there eventually. There's a couple of new guides out there. I have a new set of brain and all that kind of stuff. I've slept a little bit better over the last few days, but last night was not good either. So that's the physiological craving for carbohydrates at nighttime. And that's important because earlier when I said carbohydrates have a different hormonal impact, that's in relation to the circadian rhythm. So the circadian rhythm is a hormonal a set of hormonal behaviors and goals that your body has during the daytime and at nighttime. During the day, your body is better able to tolerate carbohydrates. It's better able to absorb them. It's better able to use them to build lean muscle mass. At nighttime, though, after the sun has set, and that's important. That's very, very important. Once the sun is set, the body's goals and interpretation and breakdown of these macronutrients are completely different. It still digests protein and fat the exact same way. It's the sensitivity to carbohydrate at nighttime is very, very different because the body doesn't usually tolerate carbohydrates too well at nighttime, right? And the reason why is because carbohydrates at nighttime release an excessive amount of insulin. That insulin binds to the same cellular reception site that melatonin binds to. So a lot of people coming into the stream, they might be like, when's Ben going to talk about melatonin supplements and all that kind of stuff? It works for me. I'm like, well, it doesn't. Because if you're eating too many carbohydrates at nighttime, there's just not enough cellular receptors to take in that melatonin because the insulin's doing its thing. So you still need to change dietary behaviors even if melatonin's working well for you. It will work more effectively, or you might likely not need it if you transition to a lower carb intake after sunset. Now, the reason why I bring up sunset is because, of course, I live in Canada, Toronto specifically, and there are 4 seasons. Arguably, there's 3 now, but let's not bring up climate change right now because I don't want to feel sad. But there are essentially 4 seasons of the year. Each of those seasons have different sunset and sunrise portions of the day. As soon as the sun sets, your body's UV receptors in the eyes start to recognize that there's no UV light coming in anymore. It's going to start shutting down its daytime hormonal goals for the circadian rhythm and start switching over to the nighttime goals for the circadian rhythm. The nighttime goals for the circadian rhythm are to preserve lean muscle mass and better burn fat. Because usually there's not a lot of high intensity physical activity at nighttime, but more importantly, that's what the body needs to help sleep properly. For a lot of people, unfortunately, because they don't eat properly during the day, what will end up happening is, and this is the typical kind of thing that I see, a poor breakfast, if not skipped, a lunch that's too high in carbohydrate for their first meal of the day, too low in protein, too low in fat, and too low in vegetables. And then they enter this dysregulation cycle because the longer you wait to eat in the morning, specifically carbohydrates, the more sensitive you become. So even if you're having, let's say, a controlled portion of carbohydrates early on in the morning, what will happen is your body's still going to react a little bit higher to that in regards to an insulin surge and all that kind of stuff if you didn't sleep properly, didn't sleep well that night, right? So which is why, generally speaking, I always tell people to actually reduce their carbohydrate intake at nighttime and at breakfast, just across the board, unless they're running or something like that, because it's much easier for your body to hormonally get on task if you have protein within an hour of waking up, meals and snacks separated by about 3 to 4 hours. This will allow the body to have some stability from a hormonal standpoint. That stability is the reactivation of a hormonal system called the muscle protein synthesis system. This is when muscle protein synthesis is basically the state of muscle building. So it's activated, generally speaking, by your nutrition more than it is by anything else, right? So again, protein distribution is protein within 1 hour of waking up. And then 3 to 4 hours apart, you have your protein distributed by meals and snacks. So getting back to the normal, typical North American diet, what I typically see is very, very little protein at breakfast. Very high carb breakfasts in North America. Not great, specifically because the amount of physical labor jobs in North America not nearly as high as the other parts of the world, right? So we have to take this in consideration, and then what our morning commutes are. It'd be very, very different if, for example, we were in Holland and a lot of us were biking to work or something like that. Then the higher carbohydrate breakfast makes a little bit more sense because our body's immediately kind of managing the insulin rises that come with that kind of style. But unfortunately, because a lot of people generally speaking, have desk jobs in North America that are very sedentary, we want to recognize the shift that has on the body. So, for example, if you have very little protein at breakfast and a lot of carb, what's going to happen is you're going to have these fluctuations for your blood sugars that impact other assets of your body. So, for fatigue, your ability to focus, your ability to learn. In fact, this is why when we take a look at nutrition practices in school kids, the kids that eat breakfast have better test results and better scores and better outcomes in life, largely because their brains are working better, right? Their brains are working much, much better and all that kind of stuff. It also represents other things that are obviously difficult to talk about in terms of the replicability of these studies, which is normally socioeconomic status. Normally kids that go to school without breakfast, it's because there's a socioeconomic issue at home. They're not able to afford it, or the time that it requires to make it is too much, so they'll send their kids to school hungry. And this is common in places like America where, for example, the cafeteria serves them lunch and all that kind of stuff, right? It's more economically friendly for people to be able to do that and be able to live and all that kind of stuff, right? So economics is a very, very big part of nutrition and nutrition status. I don't want anyone to ever think that that is not true. That is 100% true. Those that have more money have better nutritional outcomes and status because it's just simply more available to them. That's not always the case. However, it is a very important part to consider when we're talking about nutrition and nutrition choices. Getting back to this, the people that eat high carb breakfast and low protein breakfast, they will have these blood sugar fluctuations that most likely show up as nighttime appetite and nighttime cravings because the blood sugar fluctuation has already happened in the morning and it's continuing to happen because at every point in time that they eat, their blood sugar is low, then their blood sugars increase too much because they've overeaten, and then they're dropping down again, they're overeating, and then between lunch and dinner, people generally don't eat anything, which I think is a big mistake. And then what ends up happening is that there's an increase. There's too much food at dinner time. I see this, and it's very, very common, right? If you're overeating at dinner, you're like, oh, I eat so much at dinner, and then an hour later you're hungry again, that's a starvation response, and that's the thing that I'm talking about, of what happens usually when there's too much blood sugar fluctuations throughout the entire day, and people aren't sleeping properly. This is very, very important because what happens is if you distribute your protein a little bit more evenly, rather than having a huge amount of protein at dinner time and more even amounts at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and even an afternoon snack with protein, you will find that your nighttime eating habits will change entirely. Now, like I said, a lot of this is physiological nighttime eating habits, but a lot of it is psychosocial as well. So whether or not, and we're going to have a stream about that, whether or not you were raised with eating popcorn and Netflix together, or TV or sports or something like that, that has a big impact on how your body is processing blood sugars at nighttime. So getting back to this, if you are not eating properly throughout the day, specifically your breakfast protein sources, what will happen is you're more likely to crave and eat more carbohydrates at nighttime. And if you're not, you're more than likely to go to bed hungry, which prevents you from sleeping properly. Now, the challenge with all of this is no matter what, it has an impact on your sleep. Because once your body starts going through these hormonal shifts throughout the entire day, then your body will be like, all right, they're stressed out, so we're not going to allow them to sleep into the deep REM sleep cycles because we think it's unsafe right now. It's an unsafe hormonal environment, so therefore anything can happen. Because remember, technology has outdone evolution by a wide margin, right? That's why there's so many issues nowadays with health. Also because we can record, we can test better than ever before, but most notably, there's a lot of issues now because there's a lot of hormonal dysregulation in the world, and everyone's like, I don't know how to fix it. I'm like, it's not that hard. It just means that your profitability is going to go down because it means there's less eyes on screens and more people living happy and all that kind of stuff. Either way, not getting into end stage capitalism talk, but what we need to recognize is that nutrition and nutrition habits can fundamentally help you sleep better by just allowing the hormonal system to reset. So, like me, over the weekend, didn't sleep very, very well. Was a complete degenerate, dysregulated. Monday, trying to get back on track. Tuesday, trying to get back on track. Gonna be honest with you, last night, did not sleep well either. That was Tuesday night. Did not sleep well, and that's okay. Tonight, we're going to try again. So what does that mean? That means that I focused a little bit more on protein today at breakfast. So I had my typical 4-egg white omelet kind of thing for breakfast. No carbs, because I want to really, really keep that low, because the carbs that I do like at breakfast is ketchup on my eggs. Like, love it. It's fun. It's trashy, but it's fun. So I'll have eggs with a little bit of ketchup. My lunch was leftover sushi that I made last night, which is focused a little bit more on the salmon side of things, a little bit more fat and a little bit more protein with the avocado. And now for dinner, I am hungry. So I'm going to use leftover chicken, white meat specifically, and the udon noodles that I'm going to stir fry up really, really quick for a fast dinner. But after that, after dinner tonight, which is I'm probably gonna eat dinner. What time is it now? Like 6:20. After I eat dinner, which would roughly end around 7:30, maybe 8 o'clock, I'm gonna have a bedtime snack, a high protein, relatively high fat protein snack to help myself sleep better. Now, a lot of people would be like, well, you just said that the nighttime goals to eat are not great because it causes your insulin spike. That's why we're focused. That's why tonight my plan is to eat a high protein yogurt, Greek yogurt to be specific. Because what that does is, because the carb content is reduced and the focus is predominantly on protein and milk fats, then that body is going to be able to take that without over-releasing insulin and actually allow me to sleep a little bit better. A lot of people don't realize this, but a bedtime snack that's focused more on proteins and fats actually can help people sleep much, much better. So if you're one of those people that has like dinner at like 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock or something like that, and you go to bed at like 12, and you're like, I can't fall asleep, you might want to try a high protein snack before you go to bed that's lower in carbohydrates, because this, generally speaking, allows the body to do what it wants to do in those first few hours. Those first few hours of sleep, your body actually does the most building and repairing of lean muscle mass done from the metabolic damage throughout the entire day, just simple organ system repair, or if you've exercised or anything like that, right? So that's what my plan is to get back on sleep, to regulate my meals, focus more on protein and fat intake throughout the day, reduce the carbohydrate content, and have a high protein snack at nighttime. That's the overall goal. And if I can sleep properly, tomorrow everything's kind of goes back to normal, which is what I'm hoping for tonight to be. But who knows, like there's a new... I'm not going to lie, the new update for Echoes came out, and I haven't played it very, very much because of what I had to do last night. So I might just end up playing that, but having a hard cutoff time around 11 p.m. And then the other challenge, too, is like, oh, man, if I'm watching basketball and I'm getting hyped up from that, then it doesn't work too well. But either way, that's the plan. That's how we address nutrition. And better sleep. We want to make sure that your protein goals are being met properly, that we're managing your carbohydrate intake at specific points in time of the day, specifically at breakfast and at dinner and later at night. Because the goal, if you haven't slept properly, and if you're just joining in, I'm seeing 5 people in the thing right now. Very, very excited. Thank you. Welcome in. One of the biggest things is a lot of people will interpret that nighttime snacking as a personal failure. When I educate them, I'm like, hey, that's more of your hormonal system actually working properly. We just need to feed you a little bit better, which is a challenge because I get it. The majority of breakfast options are so high in carbohydrate, it's ridiculous to me. Having a breakfast protein option for a lot of people beyond eggs is a very, very, very like scary thing for them, right? So that being said, breakfast protein choices, I always do eggs every single day. I'm pretty boring like that. I want variety towards dinner time, which is why I'm doing udon noodles tonight. And I'm using leftover rotisserie chicken because I don't like white meat. Sorry, white meat just sucks. It's just not good. It's not tasty. So I'm going to cook up some teriyaki stir fry with the udon noodles that I have. And I'm going to do that because I recently learned how to do that properly. So that's going to be exciting to show you all. But yeah, let's go ahead and get set up. But that's like, you know, if anyone's in chat right now that has questions about how to sleep better, please let me know. But yeah, hopefully that made sense to everyone. I figured right now for the streams, what I do is try to be a little bit more condensed with the information in the beginning and then move to cooking. Let me know what you like from the stream format. Let me know in the comments below. But now we're going to start cooking. We're going to start prepping up, doing our mise en place, all that kind of stuff. It'll be a good time. So, I'm going to have that. And I'm going to have that. But yeah, this is a tricky topic because what most people don't actually recognize is that the seasonality should change their dinner plans and their eating habits and their lifestyle habits and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of people don't, right? A lot of people are like, this is what I'm good at cooking for dinner. This is what I'm going to cook all the time. So, for example, if someone's like, pasta's good and easy and cheap, I get that. But it doesn't have enough protein in it. It doesn't have enough fat in it. Well, I mean, depending on how much of a cheese feed you are, it might actually have enough fat in it. But it doesn't usually have enough protein in it. So that's kind of tricky. All right. All right. So I'm going to start preparing some of these things up. These green beans are not looking good. I got to get rid of them. That's a shame. I got some other green beans. And let's get ready. So we're going to cook some udon noodles. Put some water in. And these are the udon noodles I'm using. Don't ask me to read that because that's Japanese and I am not Japanese. Recently found out how to cook udon noodles properly for stir-frying reasons, because in the past I'd do it and then they'd all just like break apart and it'd not be good. Now I know how to do it, so watch out, world. It's going to be fun. We're going to learn together. But first, vegetables. Chopping vegetables. So, carrot, green beans, and onion. Very, very simple strategy for vegetables and stir fry. Something that'll make me happy, but not take away from the dish. Because, you know, stir-fried cabbage is a great way of getting vegetables in, but to me, not a lot of nutrition in it. Still good, just not a lot of nutrition in it. You can have like a lot of food, but very little nutrition. And that's a challenge for a lot of people to understand, that you can be overfed from a caloric standpoint, but underfed from a nutrient standpoint, right? So this is why we encourage vegetables, and plant-based vegetables and all that kind of stuff, because, did I say plant-based vegetables? That's how tired I am right now. These things will allow the body to get more vitamins, minerals, and nutrients per calorie. Versus if, for example, it was just rice or just something like that, then the challenge is you're not likely going to get a lot of good quality nutrition coming from just rice, because a lot of that nutrition has been removed in the husk, depending on what kind of rice you're having. Like, I'm just using white rice as an example, because I cook a lot of Asian foods, and a lot of Asian foods don't use brown rice. In fact, that's a cultural, socioeconomic thing. It's a thing that a lot of like dietitians really screw up. Is like when they talk to an Asian person and they don't know the culture, they don't know the heritage, they're just like, why don't you have brown rice? It's healthier for you. An Asian person would be like, oh, what? ew, no, why would I do that? And the reason, it's not great, but this is the reason that back in China, at least, this is what I know from the Chinese side of things. I'm not saying all Asian countries are the same, but back in China, what would happen is that if you ate brown rice, it's because you couldn't afford good rice to have the husk or the hull taken off, because that's essentially what the brown rice aspect is the wheat germ or the germ around the actual thing, right? So if you recommend brown rice to an Asian, doesn't matter. Culturally speaking, that's not an appropriate recommendation unless, for example, they're like, I don't care, I don't have that much cultural attachment to food. But let's be honest here, everyone's got a lot of cultural attachment to food, right? So for a lot of Asians, like, we're cooking white rice and white rice products and white flour products because it is a sign of social economic status and all that kind of stuff. Even though it's funny because there's so little nutrition in white rice that, like, pests won't even grow on it, and that's why the shelf life of brown rice is so much shorter than the shelf life of of white rice. Is because white rice has so little nutritional value in it that even like pests and stuff like that don't like to eat it because they're like, ew, what's the point? Ew, brother, ew. So yeah, that's a fun fact about nutrition, about socioeconomic status and culture and all that kind of stuff. It's good stuff. It's really, really cool. All right. So, doing the onion now. Trying to prepare up the onion. How's everyone doing right now? Are there some like Destiny players in chat? Did you all check out the new raid, Salvation's Edge? What did you think about it? Or was it just me? And when I talk about Salvation's Edge in video games on this channel, does everyone cringe? Because I do imagine that there's a collective cringe that happens of like, oh, what's this like close to 40-year-old guy talking about with video games? Like I said last time on the video game one, the majority of gamers right now are 30 to 40-year-old men, making us basically millennials that game a lot. And, we're going through it right now. Millennials have been blamed for a lot of crap. And I'm just happy to see that the world is starting to focus on maybe it's not millennials, maybe it's unreasonable standards and boomers just blaming us for everything. Anyways, hopefully y'all got to check out Destiny 2, and hopefully there's some like clanmates in chat. Like I said, I tell my clan members that I do this, sometimes they view in, sometimes they don't, but largely it's because they're grinding on Destiny. Good times. But yeah, so just cutting off the tips of these green beans to make them easier to eat later on when I stir frying them up. And then we're gonna do the tear apart the chicken in a little bit. I personally hate white chicken. I really, really like white meat in chicken. I think it's bland. I think it's flavorless, and there's no helping it. So people that like white meat, bless you, bless your hearts, because like, oh man, in my family growing up, we would fight for the dark meat. If we were eating the white meat, it was because we were being punished for something. Yeah, don't like white meat. It's just gross. Just why? Why? It's not tasty. Either way, would much prefer the dark meat side of things. Ew, brother, ew. So, better sleep nutrition. Now, there's other ways to actually improve sleep as well. Not many of them are nutrition related, I will be honest. A lot of them that I do employ, I do use, but of course, I think one of the most important things is when we're talking about rest and recovery, especially for the realm of athletes, rest, sleep ends up being the better one to recommend because everyone does it, but not everyone does it well. All right. So what we're going to do, the chicken. This is the chicken in question. Yes, it is Costco chicken. Love myself Costco chicken because of the price and its taste. But don't like the fact that I get white meat that comes with it. Just gross to me. So I have to find different ways to use it a little bit more creatively in my cooking. Let me know in the comments. If you're a person that likes white meat and I'm just completely off base right now, tell me. Let me know in the comments. Do that thing that you all do. But right now I'm just tearing the flesh off the chicken, bones and all that kind of stuff to have more to work with, because I'm just going to pan fry everything really, really crispy. Shred everything up, make sure it's got some texture to it before I start adding the vegetables in, because I want the vegetables to be al dente as well, right? I want them to be crisp. I don't want them to be soft or anything like that. So maybe I'll cook the carrots and the onions a bit longer than the green beans, because I want those to soften up compared to the green beans, but the green beans are going in last. And knowing how to kind of throw in different ingredients at different times will definitely make your cooking much, much better, because everything's going to time out a little bit easier. All right. So that is the white meat component. Pretty much done there. And I'm going to just separate the legs right now. And break that. There's a couple of meat medallions here that come off the dark meat side of things on the back. Just going to take that because I don't like food waste. Don't like it. So we're doing that. And then we're putting the dark meat back in, because I will eat the dark meat. And then we're just pulling all the chicken meat apart. I'm going to move you over there as I start stir frying everything. But, right now, I just want to separate this a little bit and make sure everything's good. Nice prepped up. Like I said, mise en place, which is French for everything in its place. You start preparing before you cook. It's just a culinary thing. You do your prep work first, and then you do your cooking. Nice and easy. All right. So that's a good amount of chicken. That's roughly 2 palm-sized servings of chicken. Roughly, it's on the lower side of it, I will say. But yeah, that's the chicken. Nothing fancy around here. Just using what works. All right. So I'm going to start the stovetop. I'm going to move the filming equipment over. So give me a minute. Yeah, I'm going to move this over to allow myself to cook a little bit better. Boom. Is this going to disconnect? I hope not. I hope not. Yes. Thank God. Did not disconnect. There we go. Sweet. And now the microphone. Bringing the microphone over. Good times. All right. So we're on the cooking side of the kitchen, as I like to call it. And we're just preheating the pan to about a medium-high heat. What I want to do is crisp up the chicken a little bit. And so it's got some texture to it. It's got some interesting flavors, stuff like that. Anything to give white meat a little bit of help, because I think personally it needs a lot of help. It's not even funny to me how bad it is. But let me show you some of the sauces we're gonna use. Well, I'm gonna use today. Okay, so obviously I'm gonna use a teriyaki sauce. Traditional Japanese kind of teriyaki sauce. I'm going to use some cooking sake. We're going to deglaze the pan with some cooking sake. It's going to make it really, really nice. And just a little bit of salt, soy sauce. Those 3 are the only things that I'm going to use today for this cooking. So it's going to be good times. It's going to be good fun. All right. So while that is going, remember, this is also going for the udon noodles. I'm using 2 packets right now. And I'm just going to get the strainer available and ready before time, because once that boiled up, it's going to be pretty fast. Just going to move it over there, strain it, and then put the noodles back in. that kind of thing. That's the trick, by the way, is that these noodles just need to be in there for a little bit of time, let them separate, get them separated, and then kind of put them back. It's almost like they're pre-cooked in these kind of things. So I'm just going to go ahead and take off the plastic seal first, because I can hear the water going. Yeah. Oh man, I haven't been able to work out for the past few days, so that sucks. Oh, that's the other thing too. When it comes to sleep, I try to work out that day, but only if my body is allowing me to do it. If I didn't sleep properly and I'm dysregulated, I'm not going to try to work out. It's unless it's a adjusted like workout intensity. It's not really going to happen. All right. So there's that. I'm going to put some oil in the pan. It's a good amount of oil. It's fine. It is what it is. And yeah, again, that's purely just for the chicken. Right now. I'm gonna pan fry it, get some crisp to the surface of the chicken, give it some flavor and all that kind of stuff, and then throw in the vegetables and mix it all up. Good stuff from a nutrition timing perspective. But yeah, how's everyone doing today? Got 3 people watching right now. Thank you so much for watching. You guys are great. There was 5 a little bit earlier. I think there was 7 at one point. We're just going to keep going. I said I was going to release a release schedule or a stream schedule or something like that. That's still being worked on right now. Didn't feel ready to put it out yet. So, I look forward to that sometime in the future. But for now, just kind of doing my thing day to day, making sure everything works out, and making sure that I'm happy with the way things are working out right now. That's the most important thing. All right. So you see the starting to boil. Good stuff. Now this is going to happen decently fast, which is why I kind of want to take care of the noodles right away. So the water's boiling. I'm going to put the udon packet noodles in. And again, I'm just going to cook them enough so that they separate from each other. And then we're going to finish it off in the pan. Oops. Oh, that's why it's screwed up. There we go. Those will separate very, very soon. But right now, I think the oil and the pan are hot enough for me to start throwing in the chicken. So we're getting the chicken directly in. Happy Pride, by the way, to everyone. Pride Month. Very exciting times. So I want the chicken to crisp up a little bit, but objectively I don't want it to lose all its like water and all that kind of stuff. So what I'm going to start doing is now, from a timing perspective, I'm going to put the carrots and the onion in together because it's going to cook roughly at the same time. And when I start deglazing the pan with the sake, the cooking sake, it's going to really just combine those flavors really, really well. And then, before I put the cooking sake in, I'm going to put in the green beans. So that's what I'm doing right now. Nice and easy. So while that's going, the noodles are almost done. They're separated. I just want this to come to a quick boil first. But it's essentially done, the noodles. So what I'm going to do is just leave that there for another minute or two. Keep stirring this up. And then in a little bit, this is one of the faster kind of cooking things, right? And this is what I love about cooking, is if you know what you're doing, it's actually quite fast, which is why I can still talk for about 30 minutes about nutrition and then cook within a short period of time. And that's the thing about practice. That's the thing about cooking for everyone. It's you don't get good at it right away. It's a skill you have to practice over and over and over again. And then once you get good at it, it both tastes good and it's fast, right? So one of the things I tell a lot of my athletes to do during the summer months is actually start practicing cooking. So I'm actually glad that I can actually point some of my athletes and some of my clients to the stream now to be like, hey, here's some ideas for what to cook for dinner. If you like these flavors that I'm working with, give it a try. Let me know what you think and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's a lot of fun. Summer is a great time for a lot of athletes that are in school to actually start considering, trying to learn how to cook a little bit better, so that when you're going to university and you're in residency or out of residency after that first year, you can actually start cooking for yourself, saving a lot more money, all that kind of stuff, right? So welcome to the stream for those of you there for this reason. But yeah, so right now I have just drained or strained the udon noodles into another container, into a strainer I should say, and I'm cooling them down with cold water because I don't want them to continue cooking outside of the thing. I think this is now ready for the green beans, so I'm just going to put that in. Beautiful. Stir fry this up a little bit more. There's some browning on the bottom of the pan, and that browning is going to be good for flavor later on. You don't want it burnt, you want it brown. There's a big difference, right? There's a big difference. So what we're going to do is keep mixing this up a little bit. See the carrots, because of the way I julienne them, they're starting to go a little bit soft and all that kind of stuff, which is perfect. I do not want al dente carrots in this. I want more al dente green beans than carrots, right? So that's about good. What I'm going to do now is deglaze the pan with a little bit of cooking sake, a little bit of cooking alcohol. You can always skip this step if you don't like alcohol, if you're like, oh, sake is too expensive or whatever. But I like it because it gives me a lot of flavor, and fundamentally, it makes it really good cooking strategy, right? To deglaze with a little bit of sake, get that flavor worked up a little bit more, have everything mix up a little bit. So you see those brown spots at the bottom of the pan that are lifting off? They're combining. Really good stuff. It smells alcohol-y, which is, good because it was alcohol that I put in. And now we're just going to add a little bit of soy sauce, not too much of this. And a lot of teriyaki sauce, because I love teriyaki sauce. I think it's such a good flavor. It's sweet. It's different, right? Okay, so we have the teriyaki sauce going in. let's say that's like a quarter cup of teriyaki sauce. Oh, I wish you could smell this. This smells really good right now. Okay. That's happening. So, while that is going, we're going to take the noodles that I made a little bit earlier, and we're just going to combine the noodles in the pan. Now we're just going to stir the noodles up and cook it until everything's fully combined in terms of flavors and all that kind of stuff. I think I need a little bit more teriyaki. There we go. Just a little bit more teriyaki sauce. I don't like how light it is right now, so I think I'm going to throw in some dark soy sauce to give it just a little bit of color, right? So, this is important. You need to know, especially if you're cooking Asian foods, what kind of condiments are going to do what. Dark soy sauce, which is the soy sauce I just put in Chinese it's called something called lo cao, right? That is different than light, just regular soy sauce. Regular soy sauce will give you a very pale color when you cook it. Dark soy sauce is aged significantly longer. Its caramelization properties are a lot better. It's a better kind of product to provide a lot more flavor towards, but a lot more coloration. So if everything that you're cooking up looks too bland and too pale, dark soy sauce is what you want to reach towards, not light soy sauce or anything like that. So this is almost done, believe it or not. That's how fast this kind of stuff is. I just want to be able to cook off the excess liquid, so it's more of a stir fry instead of like a soupy kind of thing. But essentially we're done now with the udon noodles and all that kind of stuff. Again, very, very quick. Gonna let me get back to what I was doing before, which is gaming. And cleanup is gonna be super fast because it's one pan. And the protein content is quite good. Using the white meat, which is, for those of you that don't know me, I hate white meat in foods. In chicken and stuff like that, so it's just not exciting to me. I like the dark meat flavor a lot better. So this is a way that I've found to be able to utilize the white meat a little bit more effectively and not have to throw it out, and still be able to get that rotisserie chicken. Before in the past I used to do things like make chicken salad sandwiches, and I'm like, oh, but now I have to buy bread. That's not convenient for me, because bread is like, I don't like things that have short shelf lives. Because it forces you to eat a lot of it very, very quickly, and I ain't about that, right? So, your boy is not a bread fan. Don't come at me in the comments. Just don't do it. Now, let's use the blue bowl. What do you think? Yeah? All right. That is done. That is done cooking. All right. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring everything over there, do the setup, do the, all that kind of stuff, the plating, which is just in a bowl. And hold on one second, I'll move everyone over. Is it muted? No, it's not muted. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so I need all right. Now that is going to be my noodle portion. And then I have all this stir-fried stuff to add on top to give me my protein, my veg, and all that kind of stuff. And then the other half of it, well, I got lunch tomorrow already done up because I have a busy day tomorrow with clients. So I've got to make sure I eat properly. So I got all this prepped up for lunch tomorrow. You jealous? I know you are. I know you are. Okay, so that is the udon yakisoba done up properly. Just going to throw in a little bit of sesame seeds to spice this up a little bit in terms of presentation and taste too, you know. But let's take a picture real quick, and then we're going to have a little bit of a tasty taste. Okay. Beautiful. All right. Okay. That being said, let's give it a try. Does anyone have any questions about nutrition and sleep, though? I think for everyone that's watching this portion of the stream, I front-loaded the information a lot better this time. So I talked about all that I wanted to talk about with nutrition and sleep, and then started cooking. So it became a little bit of a two-parter, a little bit more organized as opposed to disjointed. Hopefully that'll make people a little bit more happy. So to recap, what we talked about with sleep is that when you have poor quality sleep and there's no identifiable reason from a disease standpoint or stress standpoint or anything like that, it might be because of your nutrition. Remember, poor nutrition or like inadequate nutrition puts your body in stress mode. Stress mode makes it harder for the body to do everything properly, including sleep. And will actually, if you're not eating enough, specifically dietary protein, then the likelihood is you will have issues sleeping. And those issues sleeping will likely cause inflammatory conditions to occur, which if you don't know about inflammation, then check out my previous stream about inflammation, because I talk about it then. But if you're inflamed, what happens is your stress hormones go up, cortisol. Cortisol starts affecting leptin and ghrelin. Leptin's the fullness hormone. Ghrelin is the hunger hormone. If your body is stressed out, the cortisol levels are too high, specifically in the morning, in response to allergies. In response to not sleeping properly, then your body's cortisol levels will be higher, suppressing leptin effects, which means you're less likely to feel full after eating, and increasing ghrelin's hormonal effects, which means you're more likely to feel hungry more often. Studies do show that people that don't sleep properly, on average, eat 500 to 800 calories more per day, minimum, and have a harder time regulating their hunger cues, their hunger signals, and all that kind of stuff. So what I recommend for people to get back on sleep schedule is to reduce your carbohydrate portion at breakfast and increase the amount of protein servings that you're getting at breakfast. This will allow the body's hormones to stabilize a little bit without having a blood sugar spike in the morning. Then have a lunch about 3 to 4 hours apart. Then have an afternoon snack before your dinner to prevent you from overeating at dinner and to provide continued protein dosage of muscle protein to stimulate muscle protein synthesis throughout the day. And then you have your dinner followed by a high protein, high fat bedtime snack. So today what I did was I ate my 4 egg white, 2 egg yolk omelet in the morning with a little bit of ketchup. My lunch was leftover sushi that I had from yesterday, and my afternoon snack was serving a fruit, and now I am having my udon leftovers, yada yada yada, all that kind of stuff. And then later on tonight, around like 10 or 11 o'clock, I'm going to have a Greek yogurt and then go to bed, do some mindfulness meditation, all that kind of stuff, right? The reason why this is important is because sleep is the most accessible, best way to help athletes recover, help people recover, get ready for the next day, not dysregulate themselves and all that kind of stuff. So it's, one of the biggest things that I advocate for people to improve their health is to improve their sleep status. So this dinner is going to put me back on track. I'm going to sleep better tonight, get up, do the same thing tomorrow, and try to re-regulate myself. It's one hell of a video game weekend, and this weekend it's more about health and celebrating someone's 40th birthday. Happy birthday, Rush. Can't wait to see you on the 16th. But yeah, everyone, that is nutrition for sleep. Surprisingly, not talking about melatonin, and not talking about zinc or anything like that, because I think there are places for that. But it's just weird because when I do these streams, it's hard to not give nutrition advice and only give nutrition education. Right? Those are definitely things. Melatonin and zinc can definitely help for a lot of people. But I generally find that if it's helping you, it's because your nutrition is off to begin with. So actually working on the nutritional issues before we start exploring melatonin or zinc as supplements to help you sleep is a lot better. And of course, keep in mind the impact that carbohydrates have during the day and at night are different from a macronutrient perspective. During the day, the body tolerates and digests carbohydrates much, much better, specifically during daytime, which is why, right now I'm taking advantage of the fact that it's summer. 7 p.m., I'm going to have udon noodles, but if it was winter, it was 7 p.m. and it's dark out, I'm probably going to have a lot less carbs at this dinner and more focused towards vegetables, proteins, and fats, a low-carb dinner, depending on what my physical activity was during the day. These are just small little examples to show you how I would adjust my nutrition according to the season and to improve my sleep schedule. So, thank you all for watching. Thank you for sticking with me. We're going to be back next week at 6 p.m. with another stream, so I will see you all then. But right now, obligatory, weird, few couple of bites in front of you to show you that I enjoy what I cook and that I'm going to eat it. But after that, I'm going to turn off the stream and get back to doing my thing. But yeah, I will say it's a lovely, lovely thing watching this stream grow naturally with the amount of people that are watching and all that kind of stuff. For my clients, thank you for sticking with me after hours, so to speak, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm having a great time doing this stream. It's a lot of fun, and I'm glad to be able to educate you and put the information out there. So if there are any stream topics you want in the future, please let me know in the comments below. More than happy to entertain anything, but right now I'm just having fun doing my own thing, and just doing me. It's fun. Nutrition has been fun for me again. So that's exciting. So, this hits good. The thing that I like about this, believe it or not, even though oyster sauce is one of my favorite condiments, that this doesn't have oyster sauce in it. It's not that I hate oyster sauce; it's one of my favorite condiments. But I find that's like a cheat code to make things taste good. You know what I mean? So whenever a recipe has oyster sauce in it, I'm always like, yeah, it's gonna be good. But when it doesn't, I question everything. And stir-fried udon, yakisoba udon like this tastes good. This tastes really, really good. The sake definitely makes it taste good, better than if it didn't have sake in it. But if you don't have alcohol in your system or your diet, and that's a dietary restriction or a personal belief that you don't have alcohol, you can do it fine without it. Just use some water to deglaze the pan. But yeah, teriyaki sauce, a little bit of dark soy sauce, a little bit of regular soy sauce, and just mix everything together and you're good to go. The white meat is so much better. Oh my god. I can actually eat this without freaking out. Anyways, that was a blast. It's probably like a 7 out of 10, objectively. It's a go-to that I love, and it's delicious. So if you're ever wondering how to cook and stir-fry udon noodles a little bit more appropriately, I hope you learned something from this video. Hope you learned something about nutrition and sleep. The goal of nutrition and sleep is to not make a drastically different approach to your nutrition. When we talk about nutrition and sleep, the goal is to get you back on your normal scheduled program and to emphasize the importance of sleep and emphasize what impact that has on your body if you don't sleep well. Thank you very, very much for watching. Please like, please subscribe, comment down below. I've been Ben, you've been you. I will see you next time. Cheers.